I'd like to call the meeting to order and at 5:30. Okay, is there any additions or deletions to our agenda?
I do not have it.
I do not either.
Could I ask all of you to help me watch if people are trying to be admitted? Thank you, just to give me a clue.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on.
We got
There. I do have corrections to minutes. Additions and corrections.
Okay, you could ask your question.
Now you need him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just in reading the minutes.
Yep.
I found 3 people that were even here at the last meeting, on the list of attendants.
Okay. Do you want to tell me who they are so I can remove them?
Jean Jackson, who was here. Denise and Chuck Stroma were not here.
Okay.
I mean,
Not last time, sorry.
last time. And James Dayton and David Jackson and Nicholas Jackson were here.
Okay, so hang on.
So the first 3 were not.
Jean, Denise, and Chuck were not. Is that correct? And then Jamie was here, and who else? I'm sorry.
David Jackson and Nicholas Jackson.
Thank
who were
you.
here tonight as well.
Sometimes I don't know who people are, and also I beg your pardon, but I did try to pre-populate, and I just must have missed pulling people out because it's all pandemonium. Okay, so James, David, and Nicholas Jackson. Yeah, who else, please?
So the sign-in sheet is always helpful.
Duly noted. Thank you.
I have one more correction.
Sure.
It needs to be made, Peter Welch's name is spelled wrong. It's not Welch, it's Welch.
Okay,
With a CH.
happy to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Approval of the minutes for October 2nd with the corrections made.
I will make a motion to approve those.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Review and approve accounts payables, warrants, timesheets, and/or payroll.
Now, Mark, if they're like adjusted today.
Sort of.
Sorry.
There's the payroll warrant, $8,622.17. The AP warrant is $31,728.15.
We should do that every time.
And the bills, of course.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Review those.
Studio audiences.
Jeffrey Stone. Yes, it is. Makes salt work better. Thank you.
This, Maggie, it says a large credit available.
Yes, so you'll notice there's no check for them and they're not on the AP warrant, so
Gotcha.
that amount was deducted from that $800 credit.
Oh, nice.
Teresa asked about a Kimball Midwest invoice. It said it has a large credit available, and the town of Canton does have about $800 worth of credit with them because of parts that we have returned. And therefore, that invoice is a negative against that credit, but there's no payment due. So they won't be on the AP warrant as a payment, and we will continue to deduct against that until it's zero. You're welcome.
Federal Simquest, systems, accounts. Nope.
You aren't that either. Here's the payroll.
All right,
And
yay.
here, the accounts payable. All right, cool beans.
All right, I'd like to make,
Groff.
hold on, we're gonna.
Oh,
I'd
geez.
like to make a motion to approve accounts payables, timesheets, and or payroll warrants. Is
I
there a
will,
second?
yes, I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, let's move on to emergency management coordinators report. Mr. Groff, are you there?
Yes, I am. Evening, folks. Sorry not to be there, but I'm not feeling well, so I don't want to spread whatever I've got.
We appreciate
Online meeting with FEMA about and the state about reimbursements for our costs for the flood on and damage on the 10th of July. That request is still in progress. We're just still passing information to FEMA. They still have no money yet, but we're in the line anyway. I also had an online meeting with the state emergency communications team. They are working for a future robust system. They realize there are holes in the system now, and they were getting feedback about what they could do and listening to the populace about how to correct that to make sure that everyone can pick up the phone and dial 911. And that's it from me.
Great, Bob. Thanks for your report. Appreciate it. I hope you get better.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, moving on to number 6, that would be scheduling the for year 26 budget meetings.
So I think our regularly scheduled meetings are the 11th and the 25th, but the 25th is Thanksgiving week, and I can say for fact that
Well, and the 11th is
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day, so
Right.
that's, I think, probably why in the past meetings were Mondays.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
maybe we can, do Tuesday?
The 12th.
Do the 12th?
Budget meeting? or
Well,
select
I mean, we have
board
to deal with, let's deal with select board meetings first and then go to budget meetings.
Yeah.
So maybe we shift into the 12th on, and the 26th, or is that too close to Thanksgiving for people?
My last day is the
22nd.
22nd,
Oh, that's right.
so do whatever.
All right, so do you, as 26 too close to Thanksgiving for you, or can we have a meeting that day?
No, that's fine with me.
Okay. So, budget meetings.
And wait, same time, 5:30.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Was that a yes or no?
and November 12th.
And November 12th.
Correct, so the next select board meeting after this one, November 12th, and then the one after that, the 26th.
And they're on Tuesdays.
I could hear Bob beautifully, but if you guys are mumble, I can't.
Yeah, and probably because we're not actually facing you, so thank you, and we'll work to do better.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
No, you're welcome, that speaker's facing you.
Okay, so we have those scheduled out, and then, but we need to talk about our budget meetings. Shall we?
Your schedule is a lot more flexible. Mine is a lot more flexible than yours.
That is true.
So tell me what you want to do.
Well, I kind of feel like Tuesdays in November look like a good idea. Oh, and except for the 5th. That's a terrible idea.
Yes.
How about,
What can we do is on the move it from Tuesday to Thursday on that one day, on that
Yeah.
November 5th.
oh no, I'll be out of town.
Would that work? No, you'll be
I'll
out.
be out of town. I'll be in Nashville. I can join, but I'll be in Nashville.
I'm sorry, what day are we talking about?
The 7th, which is a Thursday.
Sure, I would love to work 16 hours on Tuesday and then come to a budget meeting on Thursday.
Okay, well, maybe that's a bad idea since I'll be out of town anyway. How about let's see.
You got a calendar in front of you?
Well, I have a calendar in my head.
I think two.
The 14th is a Thursday.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out days. Oh, wait. Or we could do,
14th is good with me.
14th, is a Thursday. And then we could go on the following Monday, like the 18th.
Okay, yeah, that's what you want to do.
And that way, we can get those two kind of close together, we won't forget what's going on. And we'll be able to use all of Maggie's knowledge, which is substantial before she departs.
What
Alright.
time for those meetings?
5:30 work for you?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
So 5:30 on Thursday, November 14th, and Monday, November 18th will be the budget meetings.
The start of the budget meeting.
Correct.
Okay,
Were you able to hear that?
so the
Okay,
budget
stop
meeting,
for just a second. Budget meetings will happen on Thursday, November 14th at 5:30. And there'll be an agenda posted 48 hours in advance or earlier since we know what's happening. And then again, Monday, November 18th, again at 5:30 p.m. Sorry, thank you.
that's okay.
Okay.
Moving on to communications.
So we handled rescheduling the November 11th select board meeting.
Yes.
VLCT has a seminar on employee engagement, that if you're interested in, it's, I think, free for passive members. I'll email you that.
If you would, please.
Christine Chamberlain usually updates our tax maps. The select board approved that for this year back in January. However, she has plenty of work. We haven't had many adjustments, or you could wait a year and save $1,800. And that was the decision that the treasurer made, that it would wait a year.
Okay,
Okay, that sounds good.
all right, great.
Election, we could still use a few more volunteers, but otherwise we're good. And the town received the Addison County Solid Waste District's report in the mail. I believe it's online for anyone who wants it, but it's
Okay.
downstairs in the office if you need it. That's all I have.
All right. That, in case, we are now moving on to the Freepoint Solar presentation on the solar field. So gentlemen, it's all you guys.
Let's steal one of your microphones. Sure. You can kind of share that.
This one's not being used, because he's on Zoom. Okay,
That'll cover both of you.
okay.
All right, sweet.
Yes.
That's part of their presentation.
The mini factory.
So we should know that, because we're being filmed, we should know who's filmed.
Well, you could ask them at the end of the meeting. You could ask them at the end.
No one in the public is being filmed.
And the purpose of the video today is so during the presentation, for the folks who could not make it tonight due to, other obligations, harvests, work, you name it, we thought it'd be prudent that if we put this on the town YouTube channel or the website, that way everyone can get the information.
Who's moving slides in the presentation? So you will probably have to be there and we probably shut that down. I believe people at home, you probably see your whole screen. I don't know. Sorry.
It's like a PDF, so you might get it for
Right.
You have to speak up.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Reed Wills. I represent 3 Point Solar. My business is Studies Development. We are jointly developing several projects in the Northeast, 3 in the state of Vermont, and of course, 1 right here in the town of Canton. And I appreciate the select board giving us a chance to come in and once again to use town hall to go through some of the specifics about the project.
I'm sorry, but we can't hear him.
Turn this around.
Maybe.
Now we can't hear anything.
There you go.
Testing. Is that working, folks? Hi, can folks online hear us?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
All right, we turned the mute button off. Sorry. Slow on the start here, but we'll go again to the beginning. So hi, my name is Reed Wills. I'm with 3 Point Solar and Sun East Development. We're a partnership developing the project here in Panton and several others in the Northeast, including 2 others in Vermont. We appreciate the opportunity to, again, be able to present the project in Town Hall, which we've done in various venues, but tonight specifically for the Select Board. So we appreciate that opportunity. Thanks to members of the public for coming out to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. So, David? Before we jump into some specifics of the project, oh boy, that'll be fun.
Might be able to use the page down.
There's gotta be an easier way. Okay. Low system resources may affect your audio quality.
Done everything I can possibly do to fix this whole system.
All right. So the first thing we'd like to do is just give you a little bit of background. As I said, our business is involved in a number of projects. We have three, one in Shasberry, one in Fairhaven, and one here in Canton. The reason I bring those up is they're in various stages of development. And if you'd like to get a better feel for, how we go about our business and about the process with the Vermont Public Utility Commission, there is information online. It's EPUC is the website, and you can look up under each town and see projects, and ours would be among them. In Shasberry, we began that process in May of 2023. That process is very close to concluding. We've been through all of the information exchanges and briefings. And what happens after that, the Public Utility Commission holds hearings, and they are allowed to ask questions of us and any other experts that we have provided information on the project. Once that is complete, they deliberate and they render a decision. So that process has been ongoing now for almost 18 months. The thing we wanted to point out is that we've worked with the various agencies, and if you reach agreement with the agencies on how to conduct the project going forward, then you have a written agreement. Those agreements have been filed. So again, if you want an example of how we like to conduct business, how we would hope to conduct business here, that's a good example to look at Shasberry. In addition to that, we have a host town agreement with the town of Shasberry, where we talk about certain approach that we're going to take. In the town of Shasberry, something that was important to them was how we manage traffic. And we actually have gotten a permit now that will allow us temporary access off of Route 7 to bring heavy equipment in. So that was a bit of a process because it involves state and federal agencies, but we have acquired that. That was very important to the town. There's also some financial benefits that are associated with it, and how we're gonna, basically manage traffic. Not all the traffic will come off Route 7. And of course, our responsibility to maintain roads and be a good neighbor. So that is a template, and that is a template we would expect to go forward with the town of Fairhaven. We have filed that project, so it's a little further along than this one. This is a project that we would be filing hopefully in the first half or later in the first half of 2025. We have with us three subject matter experts. We thought the select board may have specific questions, either on natural resources, aesthetics, or on the legal process and the process with the Public Utility Commission. So I thought it'd be good to have our three team members here just introduce themselves briefly, give a little bit of background. You can pass the mic as you go. Just turn it this way.
Let me start. Okay. I'll start. So my name is Adam Crary. I'm a natural resources consultant and a project manager with VHB. VHB is an engineering and environmental consulting firm. Our office in Vermont we have a few offices in Vermont. I'm based in our main office here in South Burlington. So I'm VHB's overall project manager that Sunny's has hired to work on this, to perform a variety of services that the PUC requires to design and permit these projects. Mike is also here from VHB. I'll let him speak to what he does, but we do a variety of services, from civil engineering to natural resources consulting, to historic resources assessments. I'll try, yes, sorry.
Did I hear you say that they employ you?
Yes, they hire.
You're employed by this company.
Yep, they hire us to perform the services needed to design and permit these projects. So my background is in natural resources consulting. I've been working on solar projects across Vermont since 2009. Most of the larger solar projects, as well as many of the larger energy projects. VHB and I have specifically worked on many of them. So worked on hundreds of solar projects across Vermont since that time. I've seen the industry kind of follow some patterns, and I'm very proud of some of the projects we designed and permitted and seen built to help Vermont. So that's a little bit of my background. I'll hand it over.
Good evening, my name is Michael Willard. I'm the Director of Land Planning and Landscape Architecture for the AD office. So my part of the project for the 248 process is related to aesthetics and orderly development. So we'll be preparing a viewshed impact analysis for that project. So it takes into consideration views and sort of the change in visual character that the project may have in the community. And then the orderly development part is looking at town regional plans and sort of assessing what's happening and how the project is working with those various plans. And so we issue both reports as part of the 248 submission process.
You're employed.
Southeastern 3 Point.
So you will apply 2 of the 3 then? Okay.
Yes, this is our project team. So I don't know if you can see it from there, but yes, they're all part of the group.
Well, they introduce themselves as state employees like natural resources. I just want to make a distinction. Who they are.
I think that they work for a company in South Burlington that has been contracted by the Suns.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Hand. I'm an attorney. I work at a small firm in Burlington. In my practice, I represent a wide range of entities from municipalities like Penn. I don't represent Penn, but municipalities, nonprofits, individuals, and I do a lot of work in the renewable energy space. So I'm here on behalf of SunEast and 3 Point this evening. I've worked on renewable energy projects for about 20 years. A large part of my practice. I've handled probably hundreds of proceedings in front of the Public Utility Commission. Worked on siting probably somewhere around 400 megawatts of various types of projects in Vermont, including a large number of solar projects. I'll be working with SunEast on the application for this project, and our firm worked on the application for the other 2 projects Reed mentioned. And I'm here tonight happy to answer any questions you all have about the process as we move forward here. Thank you.
So are you an attorney?
I'm an attorney.
Okay. Because you already hired the attorney for the town that you're paying for, so this is another attorney, right?
That's representing that.
Yes.
Well, to be clear, we did not hire anybody for the town. So the town hired their own attorney.
We hired it, and you're paying. That's a conflict of interest in my book, okay? And in the contract, it says that you will continue to pay her salary as long as you have a favorable outcome.
I don't believe that's.
That is a
conflict
of interest.
We've provided funding to the town for them to retain their own counsel, which I understand they have done. And the firm, I think there's a question, I work for SRH Law in Burlington.
Moving right along. Next slide. So some general background for the board. Some of this information, of course, we presented in prior venues. So we have a project that's 50 megawatts. It's sited right now. All of our site plans show a little over 200 acres, 220 acres. The project is in Canton. It needs to connect all the way up into Vergennes. So there's a 6-mile line that goes from Canton up to Vergennes that will have to be permitted as well. We began this process in 2018. We had to secure the land rights and begin a process in which the folks at the electrical grid try to determine if our project will have a negative impact on the system. Everybody expects to have 99.9% reliability for their electric service. So any new generator that comes onto the system needs to pay for any upgrades to make sure they don't diminish the service that is being counted on. So we began that process in 2018, 2021, that was completed. After that process, we then, moved towards the permitting phase. As some of the team have mentioned, the permitting phase takes place at the state level. So there's a state process that we can go into in more detail, but basically we file a petition with the Public Utility Commission. They hold hearings. The public has a wide variety of ways in which they can participate. The town can participate. And eventually the state is charged, the State Public Utility Commission is charged with making a decision as to whether the project can move forward or not. So we're at the very beginning of this process. We have not filed our petition yet, but we are in the process of doing, interaction with the town of Canton. One other thing that's important, solar projects are relatively new in the energy world. One of the specific things that have come out of the industry over the last 20 years is a requirement that we bond and provide a plan for decommissioning. So everything that goes onto the property has to be accounted for, and there has to be a budget to remove everything. That budget is then reviewed by the experts that the Public Utility Commission hires and DPS, Department of Public Service. And then we have to provide a bond to ensure that that can be paid for. We have to provide a bond to make sure that can be paid for. And that bond is updated and reviewed over 3-year or 5-year increments. So, that just sort of gives you a feel for the process that we're under. We have, had some interactions back in 2022 with the town. It was not at a formal town meeting. It was just meeting with some staff members when we originally put the project together.
I don't think it was staff, it wasn't the paid people, right? It was the developer review board. Or tell me more, I'm not trying.
Because you never met with us.
Because he was asking us.
We did not meet with the select board.
Or with the staff, so it had.
Mike, you were at that meeting, do you recall? With the planning commission member. Apologize.
There are no minutes of that meeting. There's no record of that meeting.
As I said, that was an informal meeting, an information session. It would be as if I came in and wanted to ask questions. So there was no record. In any event, I guess I would ask the board, do you want us to have an interactive session? Is that how you want us to do it? Or you want us to go through everything and do questions at the end?
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a printed version of your slideshow to get handed out tonight?
We did not bring all that paper to distribute to everybody that's here. What we have been doing is
That tonight? Or was this last tonight?
what we've been doing is posting all the information that we've been sharing at our meetings on the town website. So all that information is available to everybody.
They are sending it to the clerk who is posted on the website, not have access to the website.
That is correct. All right. In any event, we had meetings. I was not at that meeting, obviously. We got some guidance, and we had originally cited closer to 2022A. Now we have moved the project further to the west and begun our process, meeting with the town, consulting with agencies. The other thing that's occurred, this is a state process. The state did agree to increase or mandate the increase of renewable energy purchases by utilities, specifically looking to have more in-state solar in 2024. So that is something from a state level. I understand everybody at the town has their considerations at the state level. That is something that occurred in 2024. So we have, in terms of what are the formal meetings, we've had a planning commission, we've had 2 meetings with the planning commission. We did receive permission and held 2 meetings at the town hall that we ran. One was an information session in May, where it was just an exchange and discussion. One was an open house where these experts and others were here. We had a bunch of exhibits up. And then we regularly attended the select board meeting.
Don't come up here and crawl.
What are you mad at, Bunce?
Whoever's in the audience online, please mute yourself.
At you, Thomas.
What? Oh,
That's smart.
Okay, we're gonna keep going. So the other, couple pieces of the project, people have expressed interest in, what's in it for the town? Are there economic benefits? There certainly are with the other 2 towns, and those are documented on EPUC. When we ran our numbers, calculations are required by the state to follow a certain methodology. So that resulted in $350,000 per year. That would be to the benefit of the town of Panton. That would go towards their, annual budget, or wherever the select board would decide. I'm not an expert where the money goes, but that's the amount of money that would be contributed. We've also agreed to an additional funding of $50,000 a year. That's consistent with what we're doing in the other 2 communities where we have a stipulated amount that's done by a formula. And then in addition to that, we do, the equivalent of a good neighbor contribution. It can be done in a variety of ways, but in this case, we've just made a simple suggestion of a straight payment.
And these are just strictly offers. These are not lead.
This is the first time we have formally presented this information, so this is the Freepoint and Sonny's team presenting information to the select board. In addition to that, there's a stipulated payment that goes to the state of Vermont, to the education fund. And then in addition to that, there's construction and service related jobs that would come from this. There's ongoing landscape jobs that would come with this. We use pollinator habitat when we establish the ground cover and the pollinator habitat. Just let me at least get through a section, sir. We established the pollinator habitat in order to, support and have a stable ground cover, but in addition to that, it is also helpful in terms of local farming.
Can you just give me the figure for what goes to the state with education?
Yes, sir, that's 200,000 to the state. 200,000.
And what is the yearly cost of living increase that you're going to get?
These are, again, they're stipulated by the state, and I believe they're fixed payments. Is how the state has done
In
that.
year 1, you're going to pay $350,000, and in year 30, you're going to pay $350,000?
The state has run it as a 25-year obligation, but, I would imagine at the end of year 25, we'd look at it again with the town.
At the end of 25.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's paying this, Freepoint or Sun East or whatever, Burgess project or?
The project company would make that payment. So the project company is going to, be investing the money.
Is that Burgess or is that Freepoint or is it Sun East? What are you defining as a project?
Freepoint would be the owner. They're the financial partner. They're the owner of the project. We're management support for the project.
Commodities division or just solar division?
Excuse me, ma'am?
Is it Freepoint Commodities or Freepoint Solar? Is there separate?
Which of your comments shall I respond to? The project here, the Veritas project, is owned by Freepoint Solar. The team here spent a lot of time looking at various aspects of the project. We're you know, one of the big debates that we've had is the town energy plan and the preferred area that the town has established. We have not been able to secure land rights within that area, and we'll talk about that and show a couple quick maps. What we have done is there's a scenic area that's shown in the town energy plan, and we've done a good job. And I would say 95% of the project is outside of the scenic area. The portion that's in we feel, in an area that's, you know, not very sensitive, but, you know, could be open to discussion there. We're certainly avoiding any lands that have any conservation easements established on it. We follow the normal protocol for solar projects in Vermont, which would be no pesticides and use native ground covers. And, you know, there's been quite a lot of field work that's been done here. So there's be some generalized environmental information on the town plan. I can assure you, we've had teams of people out there, dozens of people, I would say, plus consultations with state agencies, really going over in a fine-tooth comb what the environmental impacts would be to the water system, stormwater runoff, habitat, and things of that nature. As was mentioned before, we did make a contribution into an escrow. That's something that's commonly done with energy projects. And I believe it was a request by the Planning Commission or at a Planning Commission meeting. So it was not a suggestion that was made by Suneast or Freepoint, but it was something that we volunteered to do and support. So it'll pick up a little bit from here. We're just going to show you a couple of maps, and then we can get into, you know, a little bit more Q&A. So this is straight from the town energy plan. There's 4 criteria on the town energy plan. The first one relates to this purple area here. So that says, here's what we think is the best, is our interpretation. I'm not saying what the town developers did, because this was done several years ago. From reading the plan, studying the plan, our understanding is this would be the most favored area in which to do it. The second area, the green hash, are specific. It says priority one and landscape diversity areas. You can see those areas are being avoided. The third area down here is the scenic area. In this particular map, that's red hash mark. And the fourth area is known constraints. And known constraints are sort of in a bubble right around the bottom right there. So that is the information that we had to take in and then figure out how to move our project over into this area. You're better at this than me. All right. So the next 2 maps, whoa, well done.
You can just clean on your side.
Okay. All right. No, you want that. Go back here. Thank you, sir. All right. So what's over here is the second page of the project fact sheet that was distributed by the select board. It's information that we've had out in the public domain for quite a while. And we just put one small note on it. So our project was over here. Initially, this is 22A, and it was relocated over here. We tried to keep the color codes as similar as possible. So here's the preferred area, the purple area. We are up in that area, but not all the landowners were interested in having solar on their property. So we were unable to get the full project up there. So what we did is we put the project where we could get landowner rights in order to develop. And the two things that I would just ask you to note, the first one is this was the area of known constraints, so that was sort of the gray area that was there. To us, that meant this required particular focus. And so that's why we dispatched, the teams, Adam's team, to go out there and do audits. Let me get through one, and then we're happy to take your question. So we had our subject matter experts go out there, and then also had some reviews with state agencies to make sure we understand what are the sensitive criteria. And if you see, it's a little hard to see here, but again, it'll be available online. Oh, there's a map over here. I don't know if that's any easier to see, but this isn't like a monolith. It's not one big block of solar panels. It's kind of broken into pieces. And the reason it's broken into pieces is because there are some sensitive areas there, be they because of the wetland area or habitat area. Those are areas which we are avoiding. So that is part of what we're doing there. And then, of course, we're doing our very best to stay out of this scenic corridor as it's been defined in the town energy plan. So that's what I have for this slide. Did you have a question, sir?
I have a question, because I just don't get this project. And I'm not against solar, okay? I'm not against solar, I'm not against you guys. I wanted to know what brought you here. Why did you come to Vermont?
Why did we come to Vermont?
Yes.
We came to Vermont and to New England. It's a good renewable energy market. There's been other projects that have been developed up here, both wind and solar, that were of relatively large scale. And so there was some precedent here for what we wanted to do. And so this was one of, quite a few areas that we explored. And this was one of the areas where the grid was able to accept the energy that we wanted to, submit. So we started out with more projects, and then for a variety of reasons, as you go through the screening process, projects fall out.
All right, so what I am a little concerned about is that we are the cloudiest state in the country. Okay, that's just common knowledge. And our biggest industry is tourism. We also were the first state to ban roadside signs. And yes, we need to fight climate change. We know that. Nobody argues that, okay? But can this state afford to shoot itself in the foot by replacing road signs with 300 megawatt, 300 acre, 50 megawatt solar fields, so that our most important industry, which is tourism, that attracts people to this state to enjoy the vistas that we all enjoy and why we live here. Let me ask you, would anybody like this in their front yard? And I'm not against solar, okay? And you came here because the climate was receptive to your coming here. I think we have a problem with our state legislatures who are trying to, that's why I asked how much you're going to give to the education department, because our educational costs are skyrocketing. We can't afford it. So they're going to get $200,000 from you for this project, which is nice of you. Okay, that will help, but it's a drop in the bucket to what we actually need. Okay, and I'm afraid we're shooting ourselves in the foot by destroying our biggest industry, which is tourism, and also destroying our quality of life by bringing industrials. This isn't an industrial solar, okay? I've seen them out west, they're even much bigger, okay? And I'm not against it. But I think we're selling the soul of this state to try and get revenue to offset our high educational expenses that we're gonna come to regret later. As I say, I mentioned before, I have a small solar field that I was able to keep. I have another one, the state, that I no longer have. But if people try to escape the city to come to scenic Vermont and all the way up through the roads they travel, they want to take a picture, okay, of, oh, my God, there's a 22-way, we can look across and we see Lake Champlain and the beautiful colors that they have around it. And boom, right here in front of us, a 300 megawatt, a 300 acre, solar field, kind of ruins that picture. And we are already saturated with this town plan. We satisfied our green energy plan a long time ago, okay? That's why I'm asking you what brought you here, because we didn't need to increase our green energy here in the town of Canton. I think the state is trying to somehow bring income into this state. That's why they put the educational payment in there. But they're so short-sighted to a long-term problem. I'm afraid. So I can see your point. You're coming up here, you're trying to meet all our criteria. But we don't want it. Okay, you don't want it. You've been playing by the rules. Okay, you're coming here, you're making the best presentation you can, but we don't want it. And that's not against you people. You're business people. Okay, the door was open to you to come here and make a good investment, and this is an excellent investment because I've checked with Coxsackie, New York for 30 megawatt field. There, whatever company they have, gives them $1 million a year for a 30 megawatt. And I don't know, I think it's only 30 acres. 32 acres. So 1/10 of the size of this.
Yeah.
That solar company's paying Coxsackie, New York, $1 million a year, and they buy a new fire truck every year. All right, so you're getting a.
Sir, can I interrupt you? May I interrupt you for a moment?
Sure, you've been very polite. Thank you.
Okay. So that's my project in
Yes.
Coxsackie, New York. All your numbers are incorrect, and all of this is documented in public documents. I would encourage you to go to the Industrial Development Authority and speak with the Industrial Development Authority, who are the ones who we negotiated that with. They get paid $40,000 a year. Is what they get paid there, which seems like the right amount from a scale basis to what we're talking about here. And we don't buy fire trucks for anybody. We contributed, excuse me, sir, we contribute, that's Coxsackie, New York, yes. 9W straight across from the Pegasus restaurant. That's my project, 32 acres. I can speak to it. Well, it's not was reported in an article, but what I am encouraging you to do is go to the true facts, and the true facts are at the Industrial Development Authority.
So the news people are not printing the proper.
I'm not here to audit the people there. I'm telling you what the facts are because I know what gets paid to the town of Coxsackie. It's not the village, but it's the town. I would encourage you to double check it. Those facts are pretty easy to document. Yes.
On your map, you have little, I don't know, icons of cameras from where you took those pictures, is that correct?
Not on this particular map. We've had them on other maps that we shared, and certainly they're on these presentations.
Okay. My question is, why have you not taken a picture from the most scenic part of Route 22A, which is from East Road down maybe a mile, where it's clear fields, and you can see the solar project on this side of town, it's on the hillside down here. And not one of those photos is from those locations. You've taken it through the trees off of 22A, and you've taken it further south from 22A, but you have not taken it from East Road and West Road, straight west. That's true. And Vermont Digger took a shot of that.
Sure.
And those solar fields will certainly show up in those photos.
Can we ask that you use this map that shows is the concept plan you guys presented in March? It's an actual mock-up of an aerial, you know, almost like a photograph that shows the solar panels themselves. Gives a much better and fairer picture to the public of what this thing is gonna look like. These little maps don't show us anything, but this one does a pretty good job of showing us what it's gonna look like.
So that was done in March.
Well, yeah, it's still on the website.
So
This is the map that you guys presented in March.
in March,
And it's part of
that's
this
right.
same-
And
Part of this same presentation.
Mike, if it was done in March, it wasn't part of this, because this was all done in June after we worked another 3
Well,
months.
this was, it was all part of this presentation.
Okay, well then maybe it was done in June, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
June 2024.
There it is, okay. So I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm asking if
You'd like to
you-
present, or,
If you
I
could
mean,
use this as part of your presentation tonight, because people need to understand what this is.
ma'am, Sharon, you understand we've put all this information on the town website, right?
Yes,
So-
it's hard to access. The town website isn't easy to navigate. So anyway, and I just have one real quick question about the constrained area, the gray circles that you showed.
Yes,
That constrained area is endangered species area.
yes,
And I finally kind of figured out what the endangered species are out there. I suspected bats, the bat habitat because of the level of wetlands out there. There are 9 species of bats in Vermont, 5 are endangered.
okay,
And their bats are very important to the ecosystem around here, mostly because they're both pollinators and they eat mosquitoes that cause triple E, the disease now that they're telling us we shouldn't go outside after dark and we should be very careful
sure.
about, you know, because there are people around in here that have gotten the disease. I think one man died. I don't know if that was in Vermont, but it was somewhere around here. So I mean, my question is, why would you even consider disrupting an ecosystem like that?
I can address some of that. So in the application to the Public Utility Commission, you guys are probably aware there's several natural resources criteria that gets reviewed. One of those is necessary wildlife habitat for certain animal species. Another one is endangered species, and that includes rare, threatened, and endangered species. So that requires. So that requires a really extensive review of species from known occurrences that are documented previously by the state and other sources that are credibly documented and the state records them. Another one is very site-specific surveys for other species that are not known, that may be there that the state doesn't know about. So the project has to account for both documented species and undocumented species. Those could be a variety of protected and sensitive species. It could be plants, bats, birds, reptiles, snakes, fish, macroinvertebrates, invertebrates. Any number of species could be there and needs to be accounted for in this process. So part of my job is to understand the databases, understand what's there from actual field surveys, understand the habitat, work with the state to help design a project that doesn't impact the habitat for those species that are known to be there. And if it can't avoid those impacts, it's gotta minimize those to the extent it can. And if there are any impacts, then those have to be mitigated for. So usually when there are wildlife or rare species that are either static, meaning like a plant that can't move, or can move, like a bat or a bird. There's lots of different management tools and prescriptions to try to avoid impacts to those species. both during construction and during operation, which is really important. So a project like this has to review all of those species, all of those habitats, and it has to come up with the best design and the best plan to minimize and avoid all of those impacts.
And so this is the best design, is to plot solar panels right on top of them?
So this project has not been designed in full detail yet. This design that you presented is conceptual. It's the best that was available for constraint information at that time. This project is its design is evolving. As Mr. Wills said, it expects to file a petition sometime next year. So there's lots of information that still needs to be processed, both mapping and management and impacts. Over those next few months, the information is going to be understood, distilled, the design is going to be changed and modified and adapted to what we know is there. So it can minimize the impacts as much as it possibly can.
Well, the facts are just one thing. I mean, you're right on the border of Dead Creek Wildlife Management Area here.
Yep.
3,140 acres of a wildlife refuge that has been, the state has bought up lands over the last 50 years to create this refuge. It is the most popular wildlife refuge in Vermont. It has over 200 bird species that use this as this migratory bird corridor. One of the top tourist attractions in Vermont is coming to see the snow geese, which will be here probably in the next week or two. So this just baffles me as to why anybody would even consider putting something like this in a migratory bird corridor.
Yeah, I'll answer that too. So this is a really neat area from ecological perspective, and as you said, it's well documented, and a lot of people come to this area just to document things. It's really neat because of that. What's also really neat is a project like this is an opportunity to create, as Mr. Will said, to create pollinator habitat in and around the arrays. A lot of this area is industrial farmland. It's ditched. It's very heavily drained, planted in cropland every single year.
Yeah, but it's land that has not been deemed unusable. It's still cropland, active cropland.
So,
I read that solar companies don't like to use active cropland for their developments. Why would they do that? I mean, at some point, if they keep doing it, we're going to run out of land to grow food on.
So a project like this affords the opportunity to restore some of that cropland, some of these areas that are close to some of these ditched wetland resources and stream resources, to return it to almost native vegetation. There's lots of grassland bird habitat in this area. A lot of the fields that are maintained as hay fields provide grassland bird habitat. This project provides some opportunity for some of that ecological value and restoration in or around it. If there are impacts, then those impacts come with required mitigation by the state, oftentimes in the form of some type of compensation to offset those habitat impacts. So a project like this isn't necessarily as impactful as you might think, I guess is what I'm trying to
What about
encourage.
us? What about the people that live here and we live here because of, what it is right now? This is being forced upon us. We did not ask for this. We didn't even know about it. And all of a sudden now it's a big thing, in town. All of a sudden now they're telling us that we're going to have an industrial scale solar field built out in areas that, we like to hike or walk or picnic or whatever. And we don't want to become an industrial town, not for the people that I know. So why is this being forced upon us like this?
Well, let me make a suggestion. There's, the process, we're at the early part of this process of the project going forward. As Adam said, we've not finished all of our design work yet. We have not filed with the Public Utility Commission. There'll be lots of opportunities for you and for other members of the public to participate, to speak, with public utility commissioners directly and express your concerns. So all of those opportunities will be available. What I'd like to suggest is let us finish the presentation, because really the primary audience, we've had presentations with you and many of you that are here. We've not had that opportunity with the select board. So they'll, if they allow for it, we can have additional discussion once that's complete. But there's just a couple more slides. Let me just try and get through the last couple of slides. And here, if there are any questions from the select board first before we have further comments from the public.
While you have that, what is the 80 acres difference between March and now?
It's just further, it's further design. I'm not gonna sit and point to this acre versus that acre. We came in and we gave you a generalized concept plan as we were continuing to do field work. A lot of what you see, those gaps in between the panels, is a lot of the area that's no longer going to be part of the solar project. So that's as an example.
It's down to 220.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you've referred to 300 several times, but the presentation started with 220 acres. Yes, sir.
Well, the initial presentation.
The presentation that we're giving this evening, that's correct, because the project's evolved, as Adam was saying, and it's going to continue to evolve as we get ready to file our petition. So let us try and get through. Let us take some feedback from the select board, because I'm afraid they're not getting much of a chance to participate. And then, if they allow for the time, I'm happy to take questions from the public.
If the gross area is still 300, you said it's down to 220, we're just adding up all of the actual solar panels, and that's 220, like what is
I think
the
it's the
gross
fenced
area
area.
of the park?
Yeah, it's the fenced area is 220 acres.
Right, is that carved out of 300 acres? I mean, what areas have you given up?
I'm
Is
not
it
sure.
between the panels, I mean.
It's not the area between the panels. There's some, areas that are wetlands and things of that nature, which we will not be impacted. That's correct. But they'll be outside of our fence line. It's not the area in between the panels. We're not saying it's just 220 acres of panels and no grassland. So it's the area that we're fencing.
We'll be able to see what they produced. If we compare the map that we got in March to the map that we're getting.
The map you got in March had sort of blobs and it was very generalized, and now you're seeing something more specific. This was not from March, this was what we shared with you in June.
Oh, okay, well, June, whenever.
Well,
That does say 220 acres on it. That's the same map that you sent.
Well,
That's
this-
220.
Okay, whatever.
you're back in March and you're holding on to a concept that's not helping us move forward. So let us try and get through these last couple of slides. So again, one of the questions we were asked is, can't you make the project smaller? It would really make a big difference to everybody if you could change the scale of the project. And the challenge that we have, and the reason we've said that's going to be nearly impossible for us to do, is we have to overcome two things that typical solar projects are not having to overcome. The first one is we're down here, we have to go, especially because we moved our project over in this direction. Instead of going 3 or 4 miles, we're now 6 miles from the Virgin substation. So that is all routing that we have to complete, and we would have to get that done and through permitting as well. And we're in the process of doing that. And then the second thing is, you're all very familiar with in Virgin, the substation up by the Amtrak station. That's basically the main highway for electricity here in Vermont. So the amount of equipment that's necessary to take something that's very low voltage that goes into people's homes and to move that electricity and step it up into high voltage is a big investment. So that really requires a bigger project in order to be able to do it. So we were asked a very direct question, which was, why can't you be more flexible? And the answer is, we gotta, if the project's gonna go forward, we have to be able to recover the investment of taking the power all the way up to the Bridgend substation. So that is the path that we would follow to do that. It's not specific, it's more generalized. And we expect to have a more complete path documented in the next 3 to 6 months. It's his fault. We just have 2 more slides, and we can spend as little or as much time as you want on them. What we wanted to do was just provide a little bit more detail. We were asked questions, oh, where did these numbers come from when you say you're going to make contributions? Again, we have a subject matter expert here, our attorney, Jeff. If you want to get into weeds with it, but we've provided information. All this will be posted and available to folks. But there's a specific formula that you need to follow that results in this $350,000 a year. And it was all put together by the Vermont Tax Department. So it's not something that we came up with. It's something that's consistent across all municipalities. It is adjusted for your municipal tax rates. But other than that, the methodology is generic and it applies to all towns. The supplemental is discretionary and it's an offer being put forward by, and not accepted, but being put forward to the select board and to the town by Freepoint. So that $400,000, we did a little bit of research. I'm not sure we got it exactly right, but we would, from our reading, the last time there was town meeting, it looked like there was $1 million of $1.2 million was the contribution of taxes to the town operating budget. So this would look like about 40% of that amount of tax contribution, just to try and put some context as far as what the value of this annual payment would be. And then in addition to that, there's something called the uniform capacity tax. And that uniform capacity tax goes to the state education fund. We have no discretion on what that is. It's based on the size of the project, and there's just a flat rate that determines that. We only have 1 more slide, and I promise I will not go through it in any detail, but I just wanted to, make something available if people are curious, what's the math that's associated with this. There's a link on there. You can go and see what the software is that comes up with the methodology, and you can actually see the specific assumptions that we used, and you should be able to calculate those numbers yourself. So again, this is a very transparent process. It's consistent across whether it's a 2 megawatt solar, a 20 megawatt, or a 50 megawatt. We just wanted to make sure. We had some questions come our way about, what's the methodology that's used? How do we know, what you're giving us is a reasonable number? And we wanted to make sure we gave you as much information as possible. So that's it for us, but we'd be happy to first hear from the select board any questions you have. Yes, sir.
A couple of them were answered. Was the microphone? Oh, yeah, that's probably a very good idea. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop the share screen
so that we can see questions. So the 350,000 that the town would get, that is generated by the state based on their calculus.
It's paid by the project.
Correct.
But based on the state statutory guidance document.
And that's a minimum amount.
That's estimated based on the project size and project.
Okay, and the 50,000 is a discretionary fund.
That is correct.
Okay. So, all right, so that helps. And so do you know what the public, we've had a lot of questions about being able to, for people to be able to talk to the, we've had a lot of people ask us about what the public input would look like with the PUC, whether there's a different levels for people who have property abutting the project, and then for people who are town residents. Can you kind of give us kind of a thumbnail version of what that might look like, so that that helps out? So when people are
Yeah, sure.
asking, we
It's a
have,
very good
we have
question.
information to give them.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I'm happy to answer it. There are several different ways to participate in the public utility commission process. There are formal and informal ways. So when the project files an application, there'll be an opportunity to do what's called intervene and proceed. The town could intervene, individuals could intervene, whether joiners or not. They just need to show their interest that's impacted by the project.
Okay.
And so you can intervene, and that makes you a formal part to the proceeding. That means you can be at all meetings, you can serve discovery, you can file testimony, and you'd be at the hearing participating fully in that process. There are greater burdens to doing that, and that you need to follow the process, but there are greater benefits in that you can, be there for every single meeting, participate in each step. There are also more informal ways to participate. So the PUC always accepts public comments. You don't need to be a party, and you can file public comments that are considered by the PUC. The PUC will often ask the parties to respond to public comments. So they may ask you, the project team, to respond to public comments that they've received. They will also hold a public meeting, likely in the town of Hampton. It will be hosted by the Department of Public Service, and then there'll be a public hearing with the PUC, in which that will provide an opportunity for verbal comments.
Awesome.
So you don't need to be a party to do that, and there are different ways you can decide what level you want to do.
Awesome, thank you so much. Do you have, because we have a couple people who have hands up.
Yes,
Steve
let's
was first,
go.
and then
Let's go with
Sean. So we're gonna let people who are online ask a couple questions. Steve, do you wanna ask your question, please? If you wanna unmute and ask, please?
Sure, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. What you're proposing obviously is going to have permanent and long-lasting impacts on the character of the town. You're going against the recently completed town energy plan in terms of where you're siting your facility. And it's my understanding anyway that the town or the state isn't going to see any benefits from the electricity that's being produced here. It seems to me that that level of impact with virtually no benefits in town or in state, there ought to be some significant one-time upfront payment for the impacts on the town. And I don't see anything here that addresses that, what I consider need. And so I'm interested in your response to that. And then I've also got a question about the $350,000 a year. It might seem like a lot of money now, but I don't see anything in your proposal that would index that as tax rates increase in the future.
So I'll start with your first comment. So repeat that for me, because I jumped to your second one right away.
Sure. The first
one
one
was the one-time payment, because the state of Vermont residents and the local residents aren't getting the benefit of the electricity.
And you're permanently impacting the character of the town, and you're going against the recently established town energy plan for development of these types of facilities. So you're having a significant impact in town. And from my way of thinking, that ought to come with some, significant one-time upfront payment.
So I guess the first comment would be, we're not going to permanently impact the town. We're required to put up a decommissioning bond, and we're required to remove all of our equipment at the end of the project life. So that is something that we don't have any discretion under. That is something that is required. So I agree with you. I'm not trying to minimize the fact this is a big project and will have a big impact on the town. I'm just saying it's not a permanent impact. The second thing is we have not sold the electricity yet. As I mentioned, the state has changed their renewable portfolio standard and made it possible now that Vermont utilities could buy power in state. That really was not the case as of a year or 2 years ago, but maybe the case starting in 2025. So it's possible the power would be sold within the state. We are looking at selling it out of state as well. And that was true for our Shaftesbury project. And the party within the state that looks at economic benefits and consumer interests is the Department of Public Service. And if it would be helpful, we're happy to share with you their findings.
It would be nice.
And what they felt, but they were quite supportive of the project and talked about the fact that when a project like ours goes onto the grid, it does have an impact in lowering prices, even if it's not selling directly to the state of Vermont utilities. So that's, you know, an unbiased third party that has an opinion there that I would just ask that you take into consideration.
Well, I don't disagree. You know, the 350,000 a year number sounds like a reasonable number today. I mean, I would, if it were me, I'd be looking for more than that. But that doesn't address the impact on the town. You say it's not permanent, but the life of the project is what, 20 years? Sounds
30 years, 40 years. So
yeah, that sounds.
It feels permanent to us. I don't know if it'll feel permanent to our grandkids or our grandkids' grandkids, and we should be thinking about them as well with the whole climate issue and things of that nature. But you're right, it's a big project, and what we're offering should be material. And I would say that 40% of the operating budget of the town is not a small thing.
But it's not every year. That's a year.
How much is it per thousand, Maggie? Off the grand list.
That is correct.
Yes, which is 40%.
I think one of the big problems we see with that, I don't know if you have control of it.
Can we have one person talk at a time so we can understand what you're saying? Thank you.
Can I clarify what you were saying?
Yeah.
So it's 40% this year, and as our budgets increase, it wouldn't be quite that much each year following that. Is correct. In 40 years, it will be a smaller percentage of the budget because our budget will likely be higher.
That's where I'm saying it ought to be indexed somehow against future impact on the tax rate or future increases in the tax rate. And I'm still stuck on the fact that you're going to have a permanent mark on the town, and that ought to come at a pretty high price. So whoever is benefiting from this down the road pays that price as a disincentive to do this stuff or accept the responsibility for making that payment.
Thank you.
And could you send that information that you collected to Leslie so we could have that, so we can decipher it through her as our attorney?
You're asking for the Department of Public Service testimony and.
Yes.
Please.
Yes, please. I would appreciate it. Go ahead.
No, well, just keep this, but Sean Sullivan's been waiting
Yep.
patiently for a long time, so.
Thank you. Sean, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Sean Sullivan. Thank you for the presentation. I had two questions. Actually, first one's to Maggie. Could you quantify what that 400,000 is to bounce it against our grand list per thousand? So how much will that reduce our taxes?
I can't answer that off the cuff, sorry.
It's, I mean, right now our budget to be raised by taxes is 1,039,000. This is 400,000 against that. So we don't, a direct per thousand, we don't have that at our fingertips, but it is 40% of our budget.
Well, but you have the grand list. And
Not
you
at
know
our
what
finger,
not at our fingertips. That would be,
Okay.
we'd need to have that question ahead of time, sorry.
Okay, no, I didn't think it was that difficult. I'll look into that. Sir, my question to you is a little bit different. I think you said that you work on a lot of these renewable projects. Is it with a reduction in scope to 300 down to 226? Does that make is this still the largest renewable project in Vermont that you're working on?
Yes, that it would be the largest proposed so far. I should say
Okay.
largest solar project proposed so far.
Well, that's actually where I'm hung up a little bit, right? First of all, you don't know where your energy is being sold to, right? You just said, and up until this point, it was definitely out of state and out of grid, actually, New York or Connecticut, or out of the New England region if it's New York. But this is a problem that I have is that I heard you mention the term renewable projects and this being a renewable project all evening, okay? But the state of Vermont makes it very clear that this is not a clean energy renewable project. If your RECs are being sold out of state, it's not even legal to refer to these projects as renewable energy projects. And it's what you've been, what has been the foundational approach is, hey, we need to lower our costs. This may lower the cost for energy. This is the right thing to do. This is an industrial project on pre-existing farmland that is specifically outside of a large percentage of what the town wants. There's going to be a vote in a week or two on exactly what the town wants, but you're not even, you're here to share information with the board and us, but you're only focused on the PSB because that's where you're going to go. You're not going to listen to the will of the people per se, if that's how it plays out. But I do take exception with you continually referring to this as a green energy or definitely renewable project, because it's not. And you can't do that. And you can't do it legally. So I was perplexed as to why I kept hearing that word.
So,
Is there a response to
I'm
that?
going to be okay since I'm not an attorney, perhaps you are, and you're referring to legal definitions, if we have our attorney address that?
Well, let me help your attorney. I'm not, sir. But if you just look up the state of Vermont Attorney General's office on solar, and you'll find a memo that is still on file, still listed with the state of Vermont is accurate, that talks about how this is deceptive. It's a deceptive practice, and that's really not okay. We're a community here that wants the best. We love, quite frankly, the microgrid that we have in our designated area because it truly does support the community and the people and the state. And this project is just an industrial project that is trying to be shown as being a green energy renewable project. And I mean, I can read directly from that memo if you'd like to hear it, but I'm sure you'll find it. But that's deceptive and that's unfortunate. And that was one question, one comment I had. The second question is,
You don't get to make a comment like that and just let it hang in the air. So,
I'm sorry, I thought you said that your attorney would look into it. I didn't hear that. Go ahead, respond. I'm happy to hear.
I said I would like him to respond to it.
Oh, okay, sure. Happy to hear.
There's not, there's a whole lot of testimony on the Shaftesbury project where the experts at the state talked about this project and the fact that it may sell its electricity out of state, but I'll let Jeff address your specific point.
Yeah, Sean, thanks for your question. I appreciate the perspective. You may mute it. There we go. Reed has been fully transparent in the presentation here. The project, neither the energy nor the renewable energy attributes for this project have been sold. Those will be sold. They may be sold in state or they may be sold out of state. This is a renewable energy project. Someone will purchase the renewable energy attributes of the project so that they can count those against their renewable energy requirements, but that has not happened yet. And the project is pursuing different options, but someone will purchase it as long as they are not double counted, which there are rules against, and we certainly would never do. It is a renewable project, and someone will claim the renewable benefits of this project. If it's in Vermont, that would be great, but they're pursuing available options.
Okay, I'm just going by the language from the Attorney General's office. It speaks very clearly on the terminology that can be used in these instances. And renewable and green energy are considered deceptive. And again, you can just Google that. It's a very easy memo to find.
I'm familiar with that opinion, and I think you're mischaracterizing the circumstances that applied to, but I understand your perspective and I've tried to answer it.
Okay. The second question is, with hundreds of solar companies and some of them very large, going belly up in Chapter 7 even, what does that do for the town? What does it to do for the property owners? What does it do for the bond? How frequently is that bond assessed and reviewed? I mean, I work in a different industry where we have Superfund sites where there's been TSDF companies, transfer storage and disposal facilities for hazardous waste, that have these same bonds in place until they go bankrupt. Then they become Superfund sites and we pay for it. The United States, the residents.
John, I can address the bond question as well. This is a really important question. It's one the state has been extremely proactive about. The bond that Mr. Wills talked about for decommissioning is required to be what's called bankruptcy remote. So that money is secured as soon as the project commences construction and is available to use to decommission the project regardless of what happens with the company. So if the project company goes bankrupt, the state can access those funds and decommission it so the facility does not exist any longer. So that has been a requirement for these facilities for many years. And it's one that the state and the PUC takes very seriously when they review the surety bonds or letters of credit to fund these. And I think the town can be assured that that will be a requirement for this facility.
I think it would be wise for the town to do so. And so in that light, with those bonds, what is going to be, and I know there's formulas to the amount of electricity generated to determine the bond amounts, I believe, but what is the frequency of review? And obviously in the last 5 years, I'm sure the cost to decommission has gone up significantly, 10 years. So is it like going to be on a 3-year review? What is a review frequency?
I believe it's reassessed every 3 years.
Okay.
And the amount of the decommissioning fund has nothing to do with the amount of energy output. It has to do with the cost of recovering all the materials that have been installed at the site. It's a construction estimate. It is not an energy production estimate.
And just to be very conservative, it does not take into account, for example, any of the scrap value. It is 100% the cost to remove the facility if it was required to be removed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
You mentioned that the Vermont Electric would be the entity that will do the interconnection and build the substation.
Velco, yeah, Vermont, yeah.
Is that asset going to be part of their rate base and therefore become something that ratepayers end up paying for? What does it end up with?
All of the costs associated with the improvements to connect this project to the grid, including any charges that Velco experiences, are all paid for by the project.
I have another question.
Sure.
I understand there's something called marginal pricing that goes on when it comes to the output of power and energy, and that adding a 50 megawatt facility would impact on that pricing. How does that work? How does that impact us?
Was everyone able to hear that question?
Just repeat it if you would.
Sure. So the question was about marginal pricing and how does marginal pricing, and this is addressed in the paper that I'll be forwarding, but basically what happens is everybody bids into the market, and the party that bids in sort of the highest price that clears, the last party in, sets what the market price is. With renewable energy projects, they don't have any fuel costs. They have very little operating costs, so they're never setting the price. It's natural gas projects and oil projects that have a fuel cost that set the price. So the rationale for supporting renewables, even if the output's sold outside, is that you're taking a higher priced unit off the grid. So that unit that sets the price when Vermont buys electricity from the grid, because sometimes it's pushing out and sometimes it's pulling in. If you're taking a higher price unit off and replacing it with virtually a zero cost unit, that's going to lower prices to all consumers. And again, that's, you know, documented and information that we'll be sharing and people can look at and make their own decision on. But that was the Department of Public Services view on that, and I happen to agree with it.
I was just following up on what John said earlier about, and maybe I missed this, what made you decide on this tract of land, 22A in Hampton? And did you take into consideration that we seem to be saturated in this area? We have one GMP made on Hampton Road put in, and then the large scale one near the high school in Virginia, and then just a few miles down the road in Hampton, another huge. So it seems, from an outside point of view, it seems like we're really getting hit here with all these solar projects. And I also am for solar energy, but I'm wondering why here again, and such a large area, and as was mentioned on one of our busiest highways coming into tourism, has been coming up to 22A.
So the two drivers for us, you know, first off, we're starting our process in 2017, 2018, so I don't think many of those projects were constructed at that point, maybe one or two of them. I don't think the microgrid was at that point, but I could be wrong. But what we look at is where are the places that we can connect to. So the Velco substation is here, so that's a big driver for a project like ours. Then we go out and we start communicating with the landowners, and we have to find landowners who are open to working with us and having solar on their property. So we first sort of studied the entire market. We looked at the entire northern market. So we looked at and done projects in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, and in Vermont. And you go through that process, find a couple areas that look like they're attractive to, you know, that you can inject the power and not pay a big penalty in order to do it. And then once you do that, it doesn't matter if it makes sense to do it there if you can't find landowners that will work with you and give you the time to get through the process. Obviously, 2018 is quite a long time ago. And we've had, you know, landowners that fortunately have, you know, worked with us and hung with us through this whole period of time. So that's how we go about our business. We didn't just throw a dart and land here. We really looked at a bunch of different locations, and this one sort of rose to the top as we went through our audit.
When you talk about attributes, are you talking about the renewable energy credits?
That's what I was referring to when I said
Okay.
renewable
Because
attributes.
Reed in a previous presentation had mentioned that those were going to go to Connecticut. That was what we were told. So we just assumed that the renewable energy credits, along with the power, this was before the vote at the state legislature about the, you know, the Act 289 or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. That this power, they had offered it to Vermont, but Vermont wasn't interested. It was too expensive for them, so they were offering it to Connecticut. They were waiting to hear back from Connecticut, and that the energy credits themselves would also go to Connecticut. So I don't really see any benefit to Vermont, really. And then I understand that there's also federal tax credits that are involved. How do the federal tax credits work?
How do they work? They work the same for us as they would for a homeowner. I don't know if anybody has solar at their property, but they could probably share with you how it works. So all energy projects in some form or fashion get federal tax depreciation advantages. And so that's all part of how the federal government incentivizes new generation. And I can assure you we're at a point in time now where we have growing electrical demand, which we've not had for the 30 odd years I've been in this business. So we're really at a different point right now. So I would expect those incentives to continue or grow. So the solar business, the renewable business, the gas and oil business, there's tax credits that are associated with all of them. And those are part of the decision-making and how we price the electricity. So we have to compete in the marketplace, just as if I was selling farm product, as if I was selling widgets out of a factory. We have to live in a marketplace. We take into account that there are some federal benefits. We can't compete for ourselves because we'll overprice our product. We have to compete in a marketplace, and that drives down prices. So that's basically not our decision. That's what the federal government does in order to encourage energy development in all sectors.
Okay, and when you say this is not permanent, it is permanent for a lot of people in town who will not outlive this. Okay,
And
There-
I did not
there-
mean to disrespect that, and
their lives, they're not gonna be alive long enough in 30 years, okay? Their life will be impacted permanently, along with their quality of life that they're used to will be impacted permanently.
And their assets.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people talking about, oh, $350,000, wow, so much money, you know. You're not talking about what you're giving up. You're not even contemplating the value of what you are giving up for that little piddly amount of money. What you are giving up cannot be replaced, period.
Michael, you had not asked your question, go ahead.
Related to the question that was asked earlier by a gentleman remotely, concerning payments that will be made to the town, and do you have any other projects where those payments are either indexed, increased annually, indexed to inflation, or indexed to some fixed amount? Because it does seem that $150,000, obviously, a future value of such a payment would be pretty modest relative to the first payment.
So, to answer your question directly, and you can look up some of the guidance, we do a lot of business in New York, there's a much bigger renewable energy industry there, everything's on a flat basis. And to put it into context, I believe any business that comes into the town depreciates what their asset base is, and therefore their taxable basis is going down over time. With a renewable energy project, the way solar panels work, the amount of electric production actually goes down over time. Starts out at 100%, by the time you're out 25, 30 years, it's at 85%. So you're getting less production, it's a depreciated asset, but the payment is staying flat. So I think when you compare it with a traditional business, what we're doing is actually, I think, pretty reasonable. But I do understand the point that it would be nice if it tracked and contributed that same share long term, but it's basically consistent with how the business is being done in lots of other markets.
So in the industry, that's not practice.
I'm not saying it's never happened, I'm not familiar with it, and I know New York State guidelines, and, not that anything like that, and, in other markets, I'm not familiar with that.
Very good.
Go ahead.
This is for Adam. Have you, because we're all talking about, I want to kind of switch, because, I get bears and I get bobcats, and this thing here is in front of me. And you're all for this, I know you're probably getting paid very well to help it out, but have you known the outcome of the animals and also the people around you that's gonna be affected? Have you done any, research?
So, the piece requires review of a lot of different types of wildlife habitat. Black bears are one, bobcats, they don't have
I'm
habitat.
not gonna be seeing it, when that comes out, I will not be seeing the rabbits, the deer that I get. That's what you need to investigate, we're not gonna see these, they're not gonna, it's gonna affect, maybe people with, that have immune disease that I have. I can't live where this is gonna be happening, it's in front of where I live, and some other people, it's gonna be closer. Have you done any investigating the effects of the people and the animals where this project is taking place. I haven't heard one word on this.
Yes, so the design of these projects tries to take into account wildlife movement and tries not to interrupt that movement as much as possible. One standard practice that these projects do now in Vermont statewide is they're all required to have fencing around them, right, for electrical code reasons. One practice that's now standard is that fence is a wildlife exclusion fence, but it's installed upside down, so the larger mesh at the bottom.
Fencing isn't gonna be the problem, it's the heat, it's all the other stuff that's coming off it. Fencing isn't the problem I'm worried about, and they'll find a way to get it anyways, what I'm saying is, you do any investigation, this is gonna take a few years to really do your diligence and find out what it's gonna be for us people and the animals, because I'm not gonna see these animals, I see animals all the time, bears, bobcats, deer, rabbits. This is gonna stop the whole thing because of what, I've done investigations on all the other solar, and this is what happens.
Can I clarify my question?
Sure.
So are you talking about the health impact
I'm talking about
people, or are you talking
I'm talking about people and animals in general, because he's
But you're
being
talking
hired.
about the health impact, not the access impact.
Well, I'm talking about he's being hired to find out the effects on the animals and all that, right, correct? And
Yeah,
what have
in
you
general,
found?
yep.
Okay, and you're all for it, is what I'm understanding.
So, yeah, I'm hired to identify the resources that are there that need to be accounted for so they're not impacted. That's a pretty well laid out process with the PUC and the Agency of Natural Resources. So if there's wildlife there that's going to be impacted, then that's reviewed, the design's adjusted around it. And if the impacts cannot be avoided, then it's mitigated for really any type of wildlife habitat.
You're next
Can
to
I-
a habitat, that's what I'm,
Sorry, can I?
you're next to a habitat.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I wanted to answer the other part of your question. I can't see it.
Sorry, sure.
What is your name?
Denise.
Denise, hi Denise, yeah. The PUC considers a wide range of criteria, not just wildlife criteria, but they also consider public health and safety.
Correct, that's
And
why.
so there will be a suite of experts that evaluate noise, visual, compliance with electrical standards. All those details will be considered by the PUC, and they will make, as an independent third-party decision maker, they will make the
Should they have done
decision.
that before they decided to come here for 300 acres? Should this have done this before?
They will analyze the evidence that's presented both by the project, but also by others who intervene. So if there are concerns about other impacts, and you present that either through a public comment, as I mentioned, or through intervening and testifying, the PUC will consider that evidence and determine if it meets the standards for approving the project.
Well, it's not gonna meet it, I can tell you that.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I would like to ask about the fencing. Is it gonna be one continuous fence around the whole project? Is it gonna be many individual enclosed fences?
There'll be several fences. There won't be one that's encompassing the whole area.
John, I just would like to make a general comment, and taking in everything I've heard. I can't disagree with what you guys are proposing. You've done a fine job. I think you're being fair. I think the state is making a big mistake. And and certain things that you've said, you
Sorry, John, we're gonna get you on audio here.
Certain things that you've said, your comments were that this will be statewide. And what I'm afraid if this is passed here, it's going to set a precedent for all of the other towns in the state. And it's an attempt, it's my belief that it's an attempt by our legislative department to not only enhance green energy and save the world, which I have nothing against, but at what cost? At what cost? This is a rural state. This is a beautiful state. When I first came here, well, I came here over 60 years to ski. But when I first came here to set up my practice and be here in the late 60s, it's when we had the legislation to take both sides signs out. I hate to be repetitive here. But I said, oh my word, what a great state. I really, they know what people like, why we come to live here. I didn't come to live here next to an industrial 220 acre solar field. Particularly when every time I drive home, I have to go by the one that I approved when I was a select board chair for the Patton Solar Farm that the Roosevelt owned. They own 2 others here also. Okay, but we had a specific reason for that solar field. We were dealing with a local company, Green Mountain Power, that promised us $60,000 annually to be paid. And that was to do the restoration of this town hall, which it did do. Unfortunately, by the time everything sugared off, it came down to less than $30,000 per year. So we extended payment, so it was still a good project, because I didn't feel it was a right to increase the already high tax burden to our town. And this state is one of the highest tax states in the country. And I feel that this is just another ill-conceived attempt to lower our taxes. You guys, I'm sure you're doing the best you can to put up a solar field somewhere, wherever it's allowed, it's permitted, it's legal. I have no fault with you. I have fault with the people who haven't thought it through. That we're selling the soul of our state for a short-term gain and a long-term loss. And that's not against any of you guys. You're doing your jobs, okay? You're presenting this project fairly. But we need the people who are passing these laws to have a better vision for what this state is all about. And I hope you're recording this, because this is what my message is to Montpelier. This is wrong for the state of Vermont, okay? You've got a good team here that if this was right for our town, we welcome you, because I think you're being upfront, you're presenting the facts. Money-wise, short-term, it's beneficial to us, and we're all overtaxed. But it's wrong. The wrong state policy for this state, the cloudiest state in the nation, is trying to make money from solar. What is wrong with this picture? Then I'll shut up. Thank you for my.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
I just have one question regarding the 350,000. Is that a fixed amount? Is that a minimum amount? Does it change with the amount of wattage that is produced? Or are we guaranteed 350 every single year?
So, I'll do my very best. We put that number forward and we've given you the assumptions. Once the project is finally designed and the electricity is sold, that number will be firmed up. I can tell you my best estimate is that that number is a very conservative number. You could expect that number to count, but it's not guaranteed to be locked in. So all the project parameters are done, and then everything is put into the model, and a set rate is done. That would come, after all of the, project output is sold and the design is approved by the PUC.
So once that is set, whatever the number is at the beginning.
Yes.
Is it fixed? Or can
It's
it
fixed,
fluctuate?
it's fixed for 25 years.
Okay, so I just want to make everybody in the town aware that is fixed and not indexed. It may be 40% of our budget today, but in 40 years, it may be 5% of our budget. It's not a good business decision, by any means for the town. It's great for you, but it's not great for the town.
One at a time,
Okay,
please.
folks, let's try to speak one at a time so that on the video that it's all clear to everybody who watches.
You want to answer some of these questions on the messages? Would you answer some of those questions on the messages, under new messages? I know
Looks
you
like
can't
it
answer what the
says-
tax roll they're generating now. I know that when you can't answer. Why is the power not given to the town so we can benefit that way too?
So that's a good one. So we're not allowed, we're not a local utility. So there's no mechanism for us to give the power to the town. That has to be done by a registered distribution utility. So we're not able to offer that. Some states have community solar legislation, and there's other ways in which that could be done, but that's not an option under today's regulatory structure within Vermont.
Okay, and then Terry's question is, what is the solar company expecting from the select board in exchange for this proposed payments? Is it total compliance for the project in front of the PUC?
What are we expecting? We're expecting to work together with the select board. And the select board and the community has not seen our full petition. So we can't ask them to take a full position on all view of the project until we fully present the project. So right now, what we're really saying is, here's what we're looking to do, and we'd like to work cooperatively. And as things are more fully developed, you get the full picture of the project, then hopefully we have a good working relationship, and that's something that we want to support. But we can't, in good faith, ask anybody to make a final decision when we haven't presented a final project.
So what percentage would you say you're at from the total project? Where are we standing? Are we at zero? You've talked to some of the landowners, and probably 100% is walking to the PUC and having a discussion with them. So what?
I'd say we're closer to 75%.
All right, and then this last question I can answer. It says, if the line item on the voting form on 11.5 is decided that we do not want it, will they go away? The answer is no. The voting question that we put on the ballot is to find out the opinion of the town. We know that we have certain percentage of people that have been able to come to all of these meetings and make their voices heard, and we do appreciate that. We know that there's a lot of people who aren't here who have opinions as well, and we felt like it was really important to take into account everybody who votes, that they would have an opportunity to make their opinion known, even if they can't or don't want to come to these meetings. So it's a non-binding referendum. Correct.
Which means you as the board can go against that and support it, correct?
Well, even if it was a binding referendum, they still go to the PUC, and we can't overrule them, even if the town says that. So what, let me just finish. Okay. Thank you. The only way that would happen, if the select board decides to overrule the planning commission and say their position on the enhanced energy plan is something that we think is out of line. Or the PUC makes a decision and say, yes, the project's viable, go forward with the project. We don't have any really say on this. We are like in the backseat of the getaway car. And, they're going there, we're bringing our attorney there, Leslie Caldwell, and so that's what's really happening. So even if this was yes, we don't want it, it isn't something we could show them, but it doesn't mean if the town, everybody in the town votes no, it doesn't matter. It can still go forward. That's how it works.
So and I'd like to just add on to that, which is we've been pressed for months to make a statement as a board. We did not feel comfortable making a statement knowing that we did not have full input of what people felt, which is why we decided, citizens gave us the idea, we came up with the language to have this question put on the ballot, because we felt it was such an important question that we wanted to get as much input as possible.
Once we have that information, then we as a board can sit down and have an informed conversation about what our constituents have asked us to do. It's really important to me so that there is, 'cause there was somebody who said something tonight, which is, I don't even know, just in case you were wondering, I have no idea what Howard's personal opinion is, nor do I have any idea what Zach's personal. And if you don't believe me, that is your opinion, but it's not true. What I am saying, you say a word. When you laugh at me, it makes it hard to believe that. So it's, so I don't honestly know Zach's personal opinion, nor do I know Howard's personal opinion. And we haven't had the conversation as a select board because we didn't feel like we had the information.
And once you have the vote of the people, as well as what the Planning Commission and Development Review Board says, you're still, you kind of spoke out of both sides there, because you indicated that it doesn't matter if we have an opinion or not, right? Because it goes to the PUC, understand that. But taking a vote and either supporting or denying it is an important part of the process, right?
Of course it is, but what I'm saying is that the select board, and maybe they give the select board or the opinion of the town a lot of weight. When the PUC looks at this conversation, maybe they give us a lot of weight. That's why we felt it was so important to make sure that we were taking the opinion of the entire town.
Understood.
Yes, Lorraine.
I was wondering, is there any chance now, and I know this has been given a lot of thought by folks through the years, that this could be scaled down? As I understand, the Shasta area is the other is small, so the one close to them. Is there any chance at all that you would consider scaling that up?
This was asked and answered.
Oh,
Earlier in the meeting.
Yeah.
In a prior meeting?
And
This meeting.
This meeting.
Tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
If this was a solar project, if it goes through, what happens to the property, this farmland that has land use? Yeah, that comes into the town as taxes, as part of the taxes. How does that work when it becomes a solar field? Because it's no longer farm use or land use.
You have to pay a penalty when you take it out of land.
The underlying land continues to be taxed. If any land is removed from current use, it will be taxed at a higher rate. So there may be some incremental increase in the tax revenue associated with land. We haven't included that in our estimate, because we don't know what the amount is going to be. It will be smaller than the $350,000 estimate for the solar project itself, but there will be some additional incremental tax increase most likely from the land underlying land.
Now, does the property owner pay for it to come out of that land use?
They do not.
Huh.
They do not.
They don't, who pays the penalty?
The project pays for all taxes that are associated with the change in use, if it relates to the solar project.
So that means the town will receive less revenue from land use.
All the way around.
No, they receive less revenue from the land use under land use, but they would gain more in taxes.
Overall, the town will receive more in overall taxes.
Yeah.
Do you know
From
what the
that
difference
land.
is between the land use amount versus the?
No, we don't know we don't have those numbers.
It's huge. I have a small solar panel, okay, so the difference is huge. Let's face it, the farmers wouldn't be doing this if they weren't making money more than what they could do from agriculture. Okay, it's beneficial to the landowner, and basically what your company is doing is it reduce inventory tax. Because all of those solar panels are very expensive. Okay, so what's coming to the town is basically an inventory tax, because it isn't land. It's a big industrial solar, and that's what this payment is to the town. So, I don't think there's any other payment that comes to the town from that. I think it's all lumped into that $350,000. As a landowner, I didn't have to deal with any more taxes on that property for the solar field.
I don't know your situation, sir, and I don't know if it was in current use and you took it out, but if the land here is in current use and comes out in current use, there will be an incremental tax benefit to the town. The town will receive more revenue because of that.
I think, I'm not sure whether or not that's lumped into that one.
It is not.
It is not.
That amount is not included in $350,000. Additional revenue benefits of the town.
Yeah.
Not.
So there is an additional tax that's greater than the current agriculture.
Yes.
Okay, so we ought to find out what that is.
I just have a quick question, why is Madeline, you can ask her question, why?
Actually, our lawyer is here.
Where is she?
She's on.
She's online.
Okay, 'cause I didn't know she
Yeah, and she's very familiar with this whole thing.
Yes.
They talk a lot.
So,
So they have a lot of,
negotiating with them.
So
no, they have conversations back and forth.
We can ask for information.
That's what they do.
right now.
And there's no negotiations between them at all. It's, the only negotiations is brought back to the select board. The select board looks at it. And so far, we haven't anything. It's just been basically conversations, and she informs me, which I inform to the rest of the members of the select board, what are going on between our council and their council. So we are informed on exactly what steps we are and where we are in this whole process.
Yep.
So there's no misunderstanding, because that's the, yes. Yes,
Yeah, I'm wondering how, in the June, handout for the solar benefits to the town, the municipal tax amount is 310, and now it's 350 annually, so I'm wondering how that got increased. And then the other question.
Sharon, can we do them one at a time?
one at a time
One
he
at a
wants to do.
time? Can we address your questions one at a time, please?
Oh, okay, yeah, from 310 to 350. how did that
Sure,
work?
yeah, you just go to the bottom of the page you're referring to. And you look at the notes, the note says this is just scaled up
Yes.
based on the shaft, just stay with it. It says it's scaled up because of the shaft, based on Shaftesbury, but we understand the Canton tax rate is higher.
Okay.
So
Yeah, no, I
that
just want
is,
some clarification on
that
how
is, yeah, that's what we wrote right there.
Okay. And then the other thing I'm wondering about is, with we're considering other possibilities. I mean, this is just one thing that came along. Maybe it's not the best thing. Most people don't, a lot of people think it's not the best thing for the town. There could be other possibilities down the road that might be giving the town as much money, that may be a different project.
Sharon, the select board did not look for a solar.
We weren't looking for it. It
Okay.
came to
But I
us.
never heard that mentioned, that maybe we should, we'll look at this, maybe we should also look at it.
I guess
We
it,
had
think
a
that-
company that wanted to do a project and land,
I
put the
understand that.
project on.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying. So you're saying that this isn't the only thing that could potentially come down the pipe. That's fair.
well, if somebody comes and knocking on the door, I guess we'll listen to their presentation as we listening to theirs.
Right.
I think it would be a good idea to.
Well, no one's come knocking.
Not
other
have
than-
it set in stone,
Okay.
maybe as long as we're moving 300 acres now, 300 acres along the east road, that we could put it, you guys can look at it, I don't know.
Would you like to look at it?
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, I think you made your point. Thank you. Is there any more comments there?
Anybody out in the,
Are there any more questions for folks online? Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
That kind of
And will you
wraps
stay
up.
around for if anybody wants to talk to you afterwards, after the meeting?
So, yeah, we,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
thank you, everybody.
All right, let's move on to public comment.
Oh, that was
Public
public.
comment. All right, we'll make it a
Well, we have to go to executive session.
We need to move to executive session and talk
personnel.
personnel policies.
So how is that gonna work if all these people stay here?
No, I don't know.
We will go downstairs.
We'll go downstairs for
and have our
executive
session.
So go ahead and take Nancy.
I will make a motion to go into executive session. Zach will we'll pull you up on the phone.
Would you like to?
So, I will second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll be right back. We will, probably.
So what are you doing?
We're discussing
Talk about
personnel methods.